Good morning, everyone. I'm James Fifelski, and I've been a practicing attorney now for 22 years. And one of the things that I find with so many attorneys who are very intelligent, skilled at what they do as lawyers, let's say they've been practicing for 3 years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years or longer, and they're working in a law practice or working for a government agency that they're stressed out all the time, or they're overwhelmed with the workload, or they're working long hours, 10, 12-hour days, making decent money, but without a life, without freedom, without the ability to really enjoy the benefits of success. And as an attorney who myself started out working for a boutique law practice, very successful. Started with one other attorney, then we had three, four. We were hitting seven figures annually. And I had been practicing for probably 8 years at the time. And I actually started at this firm as a law clerk. Uh, but the level of stress and overwhelm was growing every month, every year. In part because I also had a growing family at the time. I had probably 6 children at the time, and as somebody who loves kids, who loves family, I wanted to have a big family. That's one of the reasons why I became a lawyer, so I could take care of my family better, provide for their needs, create an environment where I can create a situation, an environment for my wife at the time, my kids, to be able to enjoy life while I go out and work and help clients and do what I do, grow a successful law firm with another partner. And what I found was the expectations in the partnership that I worked in were from the other partner, were not my expectations. We did not share all of the same expectations. We shared some. We both wanted to make money. We both wanted to take care of our families. My business partner also had a large family. I think he had 6 kids. We were both in agreement on many things, but one major difference was he was probably 30, 35 years older than me. And that didn't get in the way of us working together. In many ways, he was a great mentor, taught me a lot, taught me how to be successful in the courtroom. But when it came time to finding agreement, common ground with things like how many hours do we both expect each other to be at the office? Of course, we have to go to court, handle hearings, trials, sentencing, so forth. But when it came down to how present are we both going to be at the office itself? My position was if I am doing my work and I'm taking care of clients and they are happy, all of which was happening. And in fact, clients that often came in to see my business partner who ended up working with me later started to come back to see me because we had slightly different ways of approaching our practice, slightly different ways of handling our cases and working with our clients. Ultimately, there was a growing level of stress between the two of us, this expectation that I had to be at the office like my business partner every day until 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening. Something that made no sense in the context of what was actually happening because I was handling everything really well and we were growing more successful financially every year. It ultimately came to a head. And there may have been some other factors, but I believe that was one big factor where we both had to take a hard look at what is this practice about? What are we doing here? How are we making it work? And are we on the same page in terms of our goals and expectations? And ultimately discovered that we weren't. And so it put me in a position where I could either choose to give more time to the law practice. And I think this is a very common dilemma that a lot of attorneys have. I could choose to give more time to the law practice, or I could choose to spend more time with my family. I had to make a choice between whether or not my law practice was going to serve my personal needs and the needs of my family, or whether my personal needs and my family needs were going to take a bow to the needs of the law practice. What was going to take priority in terms of time? Because time is that one element that all of us have a limited supply of. We may all have different levels of talent, of skill, of communication abilities, of being able to understand people and human nature and psychology. But the one thing we all have the same amount of is time. And so when I began to realize how important my time was, that time was ticking, the time with my kids, especially when they were young, I could never get back. I could never go backwards and replay the scenario at the soccer game or at the football game or at the graduation ceremony, sixth grade graduation. And I just had to make a decision. Where was I going to place more importance, more of a priority? My time at work in order to appease my business partner, or time with my family to live the life that I really wanted to live a more fulfilling life. And when I see attorneys, so many attorneys who struggle with that dilemma between working at a law firm or even a government agency where they can make decent money, or maybe they're making a lot of money, but they don't have any time. I even see this with people who aren't making a lot of money as attorneys and don't have any time for themselves, and their level of frustration is like sky high. I've seen this with lots of attorneys who've worked in a government agency for a long time, say 20, 25 years, where they have heavy demands at work, heavy expectations, but sell themselves out to the workplace. And the disconnect that they feel between what they really want in their heart and what they're choosing with their mind creates a level of frustration, of animosity that's always kind of running below the surface. And I've seen attorneys like this. They they take it out on their opposition, whether it's another attorney or the attorney's client. They start to make their job, their position in whatever government agency or even a law firm, but I've seen this a lot with government agencies, um, state agencies, federal agencies, Secretary of State, licensing boards, where these attorneys end up taking out their frustration on other people instead of simply recognizing that they have made a choice that is making them unhappy. And that choice can be modified. That choice can be made differently. Nobody's locked into anything. I think mentally we feel as though we have no options, but the reality is we have options. We just have to be willing to take real responsibility for the outcomes in our lives. Are we going to constantly blame our situation on other people? Are we going to blame our unhappiness or the lack of time with our families on a business partner or a managing partner or somebody else who we think is in control of our life but really isn't? The reality is we all have the ability to choose what we do with our time, to choose what we do with our resources, to choose what we do with our skills. And I just want to encourage and empower any attorney out there who is struggling with stress or frustration or overwhelm in their current legal position to really consider opening your own law practice. Because when you open your own law practice, you create freedom. You give yourself the opportunity to make as much money as you want or as little as you want, to represent the kinds of clients that you want and to not represent the kinds of clients that you want. You have the ability to free up yourself to put your own personal life or your family's life ahead of somebody else's priorities at work. When you run your own practice, you decide how you're going to spend your day and you decide what you're going to use your energy for, your valuable resources of your intellect, your skills as a lawyer. What kind of people are you going to help? How much of your time and energy are you going to give to your law practice? How much are you going to give to yourself, your family, traveling? Really, the choice is yours. And I think when we think about one other thing, which is conditioning, many of us have been conditioned to think like employees. Many of us have been conditioned to think that our career as attorneys is based solely on what opportunities are out there, what jobs we can get, what positions we can fill, instead of what positions can I create myself? What kind of law practice can I myself create? And the beautiful thing about building a law practice is the overhead can be really low, unlike manufacturing or other companies that must have a significant or large number of employees to make decent money. Attorneys can get by on their own and with contract labor or VAs, virtual assistants. I mean, there's lots of ways to build a practice that is very lean and yet gives you the ability to serve your clients really well. So, if you are an attorney, if you are feeling stressed, if you are struggling with your current legal position, and you think, I could be my own boss, I am thinking about or I'm ready to be my own boss as a lawyer, and I want to learn more about that. I want to learn how to do that. Then check out my workshop. It's going to be held this Wednesday, February 26th at 12 p.m., noon Eastern Standard Time. It's a workshop that will help you understand how easy it is to build a six-figure law practice. And it doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of capital. It just takes a decision. Are you going to own your own legal career? Are you going to take the bull by the horns and decide that your legal career is up to you? How much money you make, the kind of success you have, and the time that you have with your family or to yourself to travel is totally in your control. When you run your own practice, nobody else makes those decisions. You do. And there are ways to make more money when you're running your own practice that a lot of attorneys don't want to share because they're secrets that ultimately, once you discover the simplicity of them and the power of them, then the sky is the limit. And you can go from making 50 grand a year working for a government agency to making over 150 grand a year running your own practice and working 25 to 30 hours a week. It's There are so many opportunities when you decide that you are in charge of your own legal career. Nobody else is. Nobody else is. I'm going to try to put a link to the workshop here below. I appreciate you joining me. I hope you have a fabulous day. I want you to know that you can do this. If you are on the fence about opening your own practice, you can do it. Excuse me. If I can do it, I started out as a youth minister before I went to law school. I had several kids going through law school. I had no time and I had little resources, but the reality was my own misconceptions about what it took to build a law practice were shattered when I was put in a position where opening my own firm was the only real viable and the best option instead of working for some big firm that was going to take my life 60 hours a week or 70 hours a week at a time. I believe in you. I want you to believe in yourself, empower yourself to believe that anything is possible. You can open your own law practice, you can become a success. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.